Anybody who's
And in the waiting room. Workshop, all the audits. Anybody turn their mics on? Yep. Little green light should turn on in the front.
Good.
You hear us, Neil? All right, cool.
Good.
Good to go.
All right. Call this meeting of the Buckfield Select Board to order for May 27th, 2025 at 6:34 p.m. And we do have a quorum here. First, we wanted to mention a few upcoming meetings that are very important. Tomorrow night, the RSU 10 annual budget meeting is up at Mountain Valley High School. I'd like to get as many people there as we can. And there's a bus, I believe, right?
Yes, it leaves at, I posted it online. It'll pick up at Buckfield High School and then it'll move on to Hartford Sumner. It's 5.
Yeah, I was thinking 5 too.
The bus will be at Buckfield High School at 5 p.m. and we'll wait until 5:15 to depart. And then it'll go to Hartford Sumner Elementary for a second pickup at approximately 5:20 and depart at 5:30.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right.
people are welcome to drive their own cars.
Sure.
Carpool.
The more the merrier. Yes. Education Exploration Committee meeting is the 29th in the Sumner Town office. Select Board workshop to discuss the 21 through 24 audits is on June 2nd. That's Monday. And another big one, the public hearing to go over the town meeting warrant is June 3rd at 6 p.m. here. And then our next select board meeting would be June 3rd. I get them all? Yep. All right. Old business, the broker proposal. Personal real estate.
So I wasn't here when you opened this, but it was the only one that we received.
Yeah.
I mean, currently we still have a couple of months before we could take any action on any of the houses that we sent 90-day letters to. But in the interim, since we got a proposal, I mean, I would recommend that you accept their proposal. Their rate was 3% of a sale price with a minimum commission of $3,000 per listing. That seems to be.
That's pretty reasonable, yeah.
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 So if the board wants, you can make a motion to accept the proposal. And then when we get to that situation, obviously everything that would go through in a sale of a tax acquired property would have to, it'd be run through you guys because you're the ones that have the final say on accepting an offer and moving on with that process. But that process could take up to a year.
Yes, Sandra.
So I would like to make a motion that we accept the proposal for our FP 25-01 from Cosno.
I always say Kuzno. I hope I haven't said it
Kuzno.
wrong.
Yeah, I think it's
Kuzno?
Kuzno.
I apologize if I'm saying the name incorrectly. Cosno Real Estate, brokered by Real Broker LLC.
I'll second that motion.
All right, any further discussion? All those in favor, Bob, aye. Peter, aye.
Sandra, aye.
Thank you. All right,
Thank you, Mr. Cosno. We look
Yeah.
forward to working with you.
that's right. New business, the consent agenda.
Put the disbursement warrants after Kuzno's. The disbursement warrants, the list is after the Kuzno RFP.
Okay.
I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second that motion.
All right, further discussion? No? All those in favor, Bob, aye.
Peter, I.
Sandra, I.
All right.
And just for the record, because usually it's easier in the minutes,
Yes,
for $94,283.35.
thank you.
Along with the safety grant award.
Yes, this was the one that Sandra worked on with Vivian last year that we moved out another year. So that'll buy runners for the town office and wet floor signs and all that stuff.
What was the total amount? Where did you see it again?
$2,125.23. I'm sure the items have gone up in price, so.
Oh, maybe that's one less than that.
Yeah.
Great thing.
All right, approval of the minutes of the May 13th, 2025 select board meeting.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes from the May 13th, 2025 select board meeting with the one correction for item number 4. It doesn't have a name, it's who made the motion. Forget who made the motion.
I will second that motion.
All right, further discussion? All those in favor, Bob, aye.
Peter, I.
Sandra, I.
All right. RSU 10 budget validation referendum warrant. Countersign that.
Yep, so I just need a motion from you all to allow the board to countersign the RSU 10 warrant for the budget validation meeting on June 10th. You can sign it after the meeting if you approve it.
Okay. So I'll make a motion that we countersign the budget validation referendum warrant for RSU 10.
I'll second that motion.
All right, further discussion? Yes,
Just to clarify, for anybody who's looking at this document saying, what is this? This isn't something that's generated by this board or this town. Who's the entity that actually generates this document?
It's the RSU 10 school board. Each municipality is required to countersign it. So they've already signed it. This would be for Buckfield. Each town does this.
Yeah.
And this will be what gets posted for June 10th, which is just 3 questions. Well, technically it's 2, but the first one is the generic. Do you favor approving the RSU 10 budget for the upcoming school year? So whatever happens on tomorrow will determine whatever that amount is. But on the ballot itself, it's a generic question. And then every 3 years, they ask whether or not the towns wish to continue the budget validation referendum process, which is the election that happens on the 10th or the second Tuesday of June. If the towns vote no, the only vote that they will have will be that annual budget meeting that, like what's happening tomorrow, and they'll be able to approve it after that.
I don't have the figure in front of me, but as it stands right now, if there were no changes, what's the number to the RSU and school budget,
You're talking about the overall or what it is for Buckfield?
the overall? What amount of money would people be voting yes or no?
I bet you Neil has that number right in front of him. It's in the ballpark of like 43 million, I think.
What was the question? I'm sorry.
The overall, what's the total for the RSU 10 budget if nothing changes at the meeting tomorrow?
Yep. Let me look for it. Give me a couple minutes.
So people understand that tomorrow is the time where they set what that number is going to be on the ballot. And even if the entire town of Buckfield voted no
On June 10th.
on June 10th on the ballot, if Rumford and Mexico vote yes, it will go through.
There'll definitely be more voters than, yeah.
So the only way to change the number that Neil is diligently looking for, and we didn't give him any warning. That was not fair of us whatsoever. But the only way to make a change to that number is by attending tomorrow.
Correct. And the way that meeting is gonna work, especially for anybody that's never been involved in like open floor town meetings, the way there's multiple articles on different sections like general education, transportation, administration. So the school board has made a recommendation for an amount. What they'll need on each one of these articles is a motion to approve an amount. So it's not as simple as just voting it down. I'm hoping some people go there with kind of an idea of what they'd like to see cut out of what areas. I have a couple ideas of my own. When I'm there, we'll see how that goes, but.
And you'll be attending as a citizen, not
Correct.
as the town manager.
Correct. So say the school board's recommended $12 million for general education. If residents feel like that's too high, really what they should do is make a motion to approve X. So 11,950,000, for example, which would essentially, if approved and voted on in favor, would reduce that line by $50,000. So it's not as cut and dry as no, like in the ballot, but.
But tomorrow is the only time where we can affect change.
Correct. Correct.
All right, I
Neil,
got that number if you'd like.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so it's $42,994,564.77 for all RSU 10. Do you want just Buckfield's spot?
Sure.
So Buckfield, there's two numbers. You have the local mandated allocation by the state of Maine, which is $1,115,995. The current additional, which is what basically we're voting on, is $947,394.49, which equals a total of $2,063,389.49. That's just Buckfield.
And I'll side note that there is an additional 12,000 and some change for adult ed on top of that, because
Right.
it's not included in that total.
So just to give you an idea, according to their numbers, the percent increase for just us is 8.832% from, I would assume, last year.
Correct. And they're looking at, so that 8% is an increase over the mandated local contribution and the additional without factoring in the adult ed. So sometimes depending on how you look at the number, it looks a little skewed, but it's almost a 9% increase.
Last year was 11%.
Correct. I mean, they've made a lot of strides in the fact that when they first proposed this budget, it was going to be like a 19% increase for Buckfield. And they've made a lot of reductions, changes, updates to it. But it's still a big number. I've been playing with the MVR, which I was supposed to get a copy to Neil to kind of give him an estimate, but I haven't broken it down by each category. Currently, if the town budget passed with this school budget and the 31% increase we got from county, we're looking at a mill rate somewhere in the ballpark of $14.95.
What's the current mill right now?
$12.75.
Also during this meeting, if I could get about 10 or 15 minutes of your time to go over our committee at your leisure.
Certainly.
Yep, absolutely. So
So
the cap,
for someone who doesn't know, because all of this is really hard to understand, because like you said, it's not just an easy yes or no. So Neil, thank you so much for those numbers. So the $947,394.49, did I get that correctly?
Yes.
That's our share of what needs to be raised. So it's not like if we're looking to lower just the funding for Buckfield schools. We're looking to lower the funding for the entire RSU 10, which would then decrease our share. It would decrease everybody's share.
Correct.
So,
Right, now, just one small correction, when you say our share, we also have that 1.1 million, which is a state mandated, that's also our share too, just that we can't take away
can't.
from that piece of it.
right.
So,
But I wouldn't want anybody to think that we're going just to look at decreasing the funding for our schools.
Right.
Looking to if you feel that the budget is too high and you want to see a lower budget for everybody, that would include.
Any
Buckfield, Harper,
reduction
Sumner,
is gonna reduce
Right.
everybody's
it will
share,
reduce
whether it's
everybody's.
minuscule or not. You know,
right, just keep in mind that we may want to reduce that number, but it's not up to us because we don't have a popular vote on the school board to where the school board can decide where they make the cuts. So they could cut everything from Buckfield if they wanted to.
With that said, for example, one of the biggest things that I've heard in school board meetings that I've attended, that I was able to attend, there's a lot of talk on administration, which we're roughly 20-ish% over on all of our categories for the EPS, but one of, administration keeps being brought up, being top heavy in administration. And my understanding is that an administrator has given their notice at the school and will be leaving. So easiest cut for me to, recommend dollar wise is looking at a situation of do I feel personally that that's needed, and make that vote based off salary, wages, salary and benefits, and reducing that line by that much. That's just one example. Like, obviously, if I made that recommendation and enough people voted for it and it passed, they could choose to cut something else, but it's equivalent to what. So really, you're just giving them a dollar figure of what you think is fair, and the school board and the superintendent are gonna have to figure out where that cut is, or.
And then at some point, we need to publicly question their integrity, we will do that, but we will, at this point, have faith that whatever decisions are made tomorrow night will then follow through with,
And hopefully are in the best interest of the students.
that's right, whatever's in the best interest of the students in all of our issue time.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you, I know that was more lengthy
Yeah,
than perhaps you
we
wanted.
went off track a little, but we're okay.
But
We wanted to make sure we got the information out. Yeah,
Well, it's only, tomorrow's the last day.
right. Yeah,
One way or another, you'll know at your meeting.
yeah.
Yep.
You still have to vote on that.
What's that?
You still have to vote on
Oh, that's right. We didn't vote yet. So the motion was to countersign the warrant from the RSU. Any further discussion? Nope. All those in favor, Bob, aye.
Peter, I.
Sandra, I.
And Neil, we'll let you in under other business. We're just gonna finish up the regular new business and then.
Sounds good, yep.
So Buckfield Damon Cemetery maintenance. What is perpetual care?
I imagine Cameron can tell us.
I know, I really don't like to hear myself talk, but this was a big area of contention this week, obviously with Memorial Day weekend, and it's historically Buckfield Public Works gets the cemetery opened up at the beginning of May and focuses their efforts on mowing it and weed whacking it, getting it ready for the holiday. I don't know if anybody's aware of this, it's been really wet. So we really waited till the last minute to do the mowing because the ground was wet and it was raining. I came in last week, I had complaints from residents that the cemetery was a mess, that trash cans were full, grass wasn't mowed. Monday it was raining. We were running out of time, I sent the guys out to mow. Unfortunately, the cemetery got rutted up, so then that turned into complaints that the cemetery was rutted up. All I want to say is the guys are doing great. They're doing the best they can with the small crew that we have. There's some confusion in regards to what perpetual care is, so I just wanted to clear that up. I've created a whole new section on the town's website under community. It is the Buckfield Damon Cemetery. Hold on, I'm going to share it, Neil, so that people can see it. It's on the recording. So if you go to the homepage, the menu is the same, but if you go over to community, there's now this section of Buckfield Damon Cemetery. When you click on that, it'll bring you to this page. On this page, it just gives you a little history of Buckfield Damon Cemetery, but then there's a fact sheet on what perpetual care is. So perpetual care is mowing, it's weed whacking, grass seed when it's needed, filling in low spots, the general maintenance of the facility. It does not include headstone repair. It's unfortunate, obviously, if there's a lot that is full of deceased individuals who no longer have family. If there's a stone that's down and we can prop it up, and they may do that. But as far as paying to repair these stones, we just do not have the funds to do it, and it's not included in perpetual care. There's a lot of broken stones in the cemetery. Unfortunately, as the ground settles, caskets deteriorate, the ground settles, the stones flip over. So, if people want to help volunteer to reset some of those, fix those, whatever, that, I'm sure we can talk about it, but unfortunately, Public Works does not have the time or the money to do that. With that said, and unless you want me to do otherwise, I will not have Public Works mow the cemetery if it's raining or if it's wet, because it tore up the grounds and there's nothing they could do about it. I urge residents who own lots who are able, if you can, stop in with a push mower and do your lot. Another area of concern that was brought up was weed whacking. I used this picture because it was shared on Facebook, so I don't think it's in the packet online, but it's in your packet. This plot has a ton of flowers and hangers and
You make that sure anyone watching the meeting. Yeah.
I don't think I have it saved on here unless I go into People Buckfield right now.
You could hold it up.
It's black and white, I don't know.
That's not.
It's not gonna show up.
Okay.
But what I'm showing you, the board, is, if you think about the number of stones that are in that cemetery and the number of decorations that are out there, like, people are free to decorate their lots however they want. We will not get off the lawnmower to move 18 different decorations, weed whack it and put it back. It's just, we don't have the time.
And that would lead to destruction of.
If something happens, if we break it, if we get.
Wax too close, so the expectation would be to leave probably 4 to 6 inch buffer
Yeah.
between.
So just know that if you have a lot of intricate decorations,
Or any decoration.
we
I mean,
will skip over it because we don't want to damage anything.
They're gonna go around any decoration, correct?
Correct. I mean, if it's one thing,
But I wouldn't expect them to get off the mower for one thing
I know.
at every.
We try to do the best we can, and that's
They
not.
may, but you don't want to set up the expectation that, well, if I only have one thing.
Right.
Because
One thing leads
if-
to 400.
if that's what the community wants, then next year we can put that in the budget to pay someone to take the time to move everything and weed whack and.
Well, that's a good
somebody-
segue into what I was going to cover next.
Oh, okay.
So on this website, on this page as well, I've included, and I'll update it as it changes. When we sell a lot, main statute dictates that 30% of the sale goes to the perpetual trust fund, and then the income thereof pays for perpetual care. That balance in that account is currently $62,323. Last year's income was $3,143. If I have 2 guys mowing and weed whacking that cemetery, it takes, it takes roughly 40 hours for those 2 guys to do that. That's roughly $1,700 in wages, Medicare, FICA, whatever. So as you can see, the perpetual care fund pays to mow that cemetery probably twice a year. That doesn't include any material. That doesn't include any labor outside of mowing. It doesn't cover blades, trim line, which we go through a roll of it on one day. But I'm trying to share this information so people are aware of what we're up against.
Mhm.
Last year's cemetery budget was roughly $11,000, which accounts for this $3,000. So the difference there was material I wanted to put into the road, you know, stuff to, fences, signing, whatever, you know, signage, whatever. So if there's an expectation of what it is gonna be, there needs to be an expectation of it's gonna cost more. And I just wanted to get way ahead of that before next year's budget, that we need to figure out like how we do it. I just don't have enough people. I got 3 full-time employees. I've got a part-timer that can work 20 hours a week. I've got a high school student who, once he hits summer, can work 40 hours, but I need 80 hours of labor. So I'm gonna have to pull a driver.
But we don't have the money in this budget to pay for,
Well, the wages are in the public works line, right? But in order to use that labor, I have to pull them off road work. One truck driver and one equipment operator can't do any road work because they can't flag. And at that point, if we get caught by the state, it's a violation. And we have to pick and choose. So I'm just trying to be transparent and open with everybody on what's going on, because I know people have heard complaints. I've heard complaints. I've tried to go out of my way to help, and it is what it is. We do take pride in what we do.
oh, without doubt, the cemetery committee, was that an ad hoc committee?
Yeah.
Or was that a city?
No, it was an ad hoc committee.
So if there were a group of people who wanted to get together to problem solve, make suggestions to the select board on ways to move forward, we certainly could create another ad hoc committee. Because we don't have the people to do more, but even if we did have the people, if the community wants a higher level of maintenance or a higher frequency of maintenance than what we've budgeted for, then we would need the budget for that.
Mhm.
So if the community wants everything moved from certain areas or whatever it is that the community wants,
Do we need a cemetery department?
whatever, do the best we can to make happen whatever it is the community wants. So, please get together.
Yeah, if there's interest, we could certainly put that committee together and, you know, look at what other towns do.
Cost, what do you think?
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you to all of the folks who worked as hard as you did in the muck and in the rain to,
Yeah. Get it ready.
And a shout out to the kids from the school that came out on the 21st. There's a group in the cemetery that did a lot of raking and stuff out there, as well as worked out front here. So that help was appreciated immensely.
it is the town that places the flags, is that correct, Cameron?
We purchased the flags.
We purchased.
The school kids come out and they, every year they go out and they set them. However,
Under the supervision of
teachers.
or staff.
And if a flag is missed at a grave, it's probably because a marker's missing. So I would urge people to check the graves of their loved ones to make sure that markers aren't missing or broken, because there's no map to every burial that belongs to a veteran or firefighter. So
If there's a missing marker or it's broken, let us know.
Yep.
And that would be corrected.
Correct.
The flag will be corrected.
correct. And if we miss one, feel free to stop in. We have them. I'll give them to you.
Thank you. All right. Other business. If we're ready to move on, we're good for now? Yep. All right. Like, anybody interested in that committee, if we want to put one together, let us know and we'll work on that.
Any concern, any committee,
Absolutely.
anything people want to
Yeah.
give for feedback, that this board is here to follow through on what the community wants. Just let us know.
Other business, Neil.
Yeah, so I'm kind of reporting in from what we've kind of come up with at our ad hoc education committee removal, whatever you want to call it. So we did the numbers as best as we could with the information provided to us by RSU 10 and some guesswork. And let me explain to you what that means. So There are two types of costs that we pay for in RSU 10. The first cost is what we call the known cost, which are definitively labeled by RSU 10 based upon school. So we know that is basically spent on our schools. The second category is what I call unknown costs. We have the total cost, but it is not broken down by school. And these are what they classify as system-wide costs, such as transportation, such as oil and gas and electricity. I mean, they, for whatever reason, even though they probably could, they don't have it specifically broken down by school. So we all got the numbers and we all did a lot of math and a lot of different stuff. And so basically, and I don't want to make this, you know, a long presentation, but what we kind of figured is that if we went on our own, going by the fiscal year 25, so not the new budget, but last year's budget, that with the state subsidy, and again, that's also a rough guess, we would be looking at needing to spend around $11 million for the 3 schools. Now, the state subsidy piece of it is just over 7 million. So if you kind of minus those two numbers, you kind of get the basically what the 3 towns paid last year to RSU 10. Sandra.
When you say the state, does that include state and federal funding?
No, that's just the state. Just what the state allocates with that form that they call ED 279.
Okay, because there is federal funding. I know it's not nearly as much, but.
Right. Now, if this federal funding part of that, then that would be incorporated too, because we just went by the ED 279.
Okay.
And when I say guess on some of these numbers, as far as what the state subsidy was, we kind of went in and we found 2 other school districts that were very close to what we would be if we withdrew as far as total number of pupils and roughly the similar town evaluations. And we looked at their subsidy from the state and it was somewhere around that 7 million mark. So that's where we came up with that number as a rough estimate. We won't actually be able to get the exact number unless we get the state of Maine to do our own ED 279 just for our 3 schools. The problem is it's probably going to cost around $40,000 for them to do that, which would be one of the requirements in the steps of withdrawal. But that's the best number that we could come up with. And as far as the unknown numbers or the unknown cost, because it's a system-wide cost, again, we did it 2 or 3 different ways. We divided it by pupils, we divided it by school buildings, et cetera, and we kind of came up with an average. So based upon that, in our meetings, we decided that that was close enough to where it was worth going to the next step of bringing it to the towns and getting public comment on the withdrawal process. So that's why the next meeting we're going to have is in Sumner. And as long as the Hartford town approves it, the next meeting after that will be in Hartford. And that is to, answer any questions, kind of, get the word out. But at some point, we're going to need to start a petition. That's kind of the very first step of the withdrawal process. And the key part about the petition, I know it seems like we're kind of jumping the gun here, but the key part about the petition is that it will give us an idea of whether or not the 3 towns are in favor of proceeding. Because if we get one town where the petition doesn't pass, then we're done. Because we cannot do it without all 3 towns. We just have to have all 3 towns. So that's kind of where that petition piece of it is. And so so each of the towns needs to help us do a petition for that town and see where that kind of stands. If all 3 pass, the next step would be to talk to all 3 towns, select boards and the managers about we need to hire a lawyer and start that process. Because all the petition is going to do is basically tell us where the 3 towns sit and also kind of get us started to where if we do have a vote in the future, the petition is the first part of actually bringing it to the people and actually having a vote, for the whole town to vote on. But I don't think that we can go down that road of going to that point until we do the petition. And if that passes all three towns, then hire a lawyer, because there's a lot of legal stuff that, most of us can't even comprehend. At least I know I can't. So that's kind of where we're at. So I would think that by the next select board meeting, maybe the next one after that, depending upon if you have two here coming up, I think I'm gonna come to you guys with a proposal of doing a petition for Buckfield. And that's kind of where we stand. Now, I also have a link, and I sent this to Cameron. The link is to a Google Drive for public view, and that link will give all the documentation we found. It gives the numbers that we came up with. It gives all that. There's a lot there. So
I put that, hopefully, hold on, sorry, trying to do this one-handed. Under the education exploration link on our website.
okay,
I can make a button so it looks a little bit, but this
Okay.
public viewable document should go to that
Yep.
Dropbox.
there you go.
All right.
Perfect.
And no one has to have a Google account to view that, to view those documents. You only have to have an account if you're going to be an editor. But for public view and just informational stuff, you don't need a Google account. You just click on that link and it takes you right there.
Yeah, that's a lot of hard work so far. Yep. So let's see, our next meeting is June 3rd.
Next meeting. You sure you want to say by your next meeting, Neil?
Or the one after, he said. Said that too.
Right. I mean, because, obviously we can propose doing a petition for Buckfield. I mean, we don't have to wait for Harvard and Sumner to get to that point. Because obviously the meeting in Sumner is more for the Sumner residents. The meeting that will be in Harvard is more for the Harvard residents. And seeing that the last several meetings we've had were in Buckfield, and we've had quite a bit of turnout that show up to those. Obviously, at any point in time, we could request a petition. I just need to see if we could find volunteers to do the petition, because I don't personally have time to do the petition piece of it. But I think we will, because the last several, actually every single meeting that we've had 15 plus people show up that are not part of the board. So.
It's been good turnout.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking that perhaps it might be helpful to other towns if Buckfield said, okay, we're going to begin this process, put the petition together, figure out what we need to do. Because at any point, the community can decide, no, we're not going to go through with this, we're going to stop for whatever reason.
Right.
That would be the petition.
Yeah.
But we, as a board, begin that process advised by this committee. Then if Harvard and Sumner also choose to go forward with it, they'd have a template to just use if they so chose.
Right.
And I just wanted to go back. I had done some research, and what I had found, and I just didn't know if this matched up. For federal funding now, I believe it's just over $2,500 per student. So
Okay.
do you know roughly how many students?
Well, there's for the 25 fiscal year, we used the number 507. That seemed to be the common number that we were able to come up to for our three schools.
So if we do 507 times 2,500.
2,500.
Yeah.
That gives us 1.2 million.
So if we receive that in federal funding, and then I just not being able to understand the numbers, you're
Right.
not, because when you look at Maine, if we're looking for the year 2000, 21, it ranges anywhere from $3,730 per pupil to $7,980 per pupil from the state, depending on where
Right.
you are geographically, the
Right.
whole formula, but
Right.
it's, the average was approximately $6,700
Right.
per pupil. I'm sure that we could go down that rabbit hole forever on state websites and eventually get to that number per pupil for this area, so we could figure it out. I can't help but find it concerning that if we think of the school board running the running of RSU 10, a certain amount of that with dealing with the community's money is a business. And spending that money and tracking that money. And I find it concerning that either they don't know how much money is being spent per building, per vehicle. These are things with any town, you know, idea how much each department costs, what it costs to run the transfer station versus the library. But that information would be pretty easy to put together, so that I find it concerning that either they don't have that information or they have it and they've chosen not to share it.
I think that with their accountant system, with the software, I think they have the ability to enter it in individually. Whether they do or not is another question. But I think it's just time. I think if we specifically ask them to give us every single little detail, I just think that they just don't have time.
But I imagine they should be able to say the cost of operating Buckfield Junior Senior High School versus the cost of operating, I'm not sure the full name of the Rumford High School. They
Right.
have it per building.
Well, they do have that per building, but for example, and one of the cost centers that they have is, so they break everything down into cost centers, okay? And cost center 8 is basically transportation. And within that, 99% of that is not broken down by school. That's broken down by, you know, total amount of money spent for fuel, total amount of money spent for this bus, or, you know, they don't have it broken down in their paperwork. They just have it listed under specific accounts. Now, I'm sure that because everything is all itemized with really long account numbers, that they could somehow pull that information. The question is whether or not they have time, especially now because it's budget season.
Right. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
You know, I can't tell you how impressed everyone is with the work that the entire committee is doing, and all the folks that may not be officially members of the committee but are attending.
Right.
The information, you've made it so available, so shareable. It isn't always easy to understand, but that's not on you.
Right. And, you know, and I welcome anybody who has better math skills and better other understanding to come in and nitpick these numbers so that way we can get closer. This is just the best that we can kind of do right now with these numbers. So
It's so exciting to see people coming together from all three towns, one big community, having these discussions, being unified. It's a great thing
Yeah.
to see happening. So thank you for, as chairman of that ad hoc committee, being willing to take the lead on all that. Thank you
of
very much.
course, yep, no problem.
Appreciate it. That's a lot of energy behind it right now. Yeah. All right. Thank you, Neil.
Yep.
All right. Any other business?
I would like to clarify a
Yeah.
comment that I made before. We're talking about the ad hoc education committee. I made the comment that if there's something the community wants this board to work on,
Mhm.
to just let us know. The way to let us know is to call one of us, to send one of us an email, or to email the town office. I know that we're not going to take information from Facebook necessarily as directive as to where, what this.
Yeah, there's a process.
Right,
Yeah.
so certainly, if there's anything that people want us to work on, or information that they want to share, we want to hear it. Please go through the appropriate channels, so everything is documented appropriately, and that we follow procedure as we must.
Right.
Thank you, I just wanted
Thank
to
you.
clarify that.
No, I'm on board. All right, any other business? No? Online, all right, a public comment? No?
Feels like, nope.
All right. And we have no need for executive session that I'm aware of.
No.
Nope. All right, all that being said, then I'll make a motion that we adjourn at 7:20 PM.
Second.
All right, all in favor? Bye-bye.
Peter, aye.
Sandra, I.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Neil.
Have a good night, bud.
Thank you.